Have you ever heard a story so wild, so unbelievable, that it just has to be true? Well, get ready, because today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre and captivating legal cases in history, the strange tale of the Tichborne Claimant. This is a story about a missing heir, a grieving mother, a butcher from Australia, and a courtroom battle that gripped an entire nation. It all starts with Roger Tichborne, the heir to a wealthy English baronetcy. He was a young man, educated in France, and a bit of a wanderer. In 1854, at the age of 25, he boarded a ship called the Bella, sailing from Rio de Janeiro. The ship, and everyone on it, vanished without a trace. It was presumed lost at sea. Roger was declared dead, and his younger brother, Alfred, became the new heir. For Roger's mother, Lady Tichborne, this was a nightmare she refused to accept. She was convinced her son was still alive somewhere. She placed advertisements in newspapers across the globe, offering a substantial reward for any information about Roger. For over a decade, she clung to this hope, writing to clairvoyants and following every flimsy lead. Most people thought she was consumed by grief, unable to face reality. Then, in 1866, a letter arrived from Wagga Wagga, Australia. The writer claimed to be her long-lost son, Roger. He said he had survived the shipwreck and had been living a simple life under the name Thomas Castro. He was now working as a butcher. Lady Tichborne was ecstatic. Her prayers had been answered. She immediately sent money for his passage back to England. When the man known as Thomas Castro arrived in Paris to meet Lady Tichborne, the reunion was interesting. He was enormously overweight, weighing over 300 pounds, a stark contrast to the slender Roger Tichborne, who had disappeared. He didn't speak French, Roger's first language, and his English had a thick, unrefined accent. He also seemed to have forgotten many details about his own family and childhood. But here's the twist. Despite all these inconsistencies, Lady Tichborne instantly recognized him as her son. She embraced him, wept, and declared to the world that Roger had returned. Her desperate hope had found a focus. She didn't see the massive butcher from Australia. She saw the boy she had lost. With her powerful endorsement, the man who would become known as the Claimant began to gain supporters. But who was this man really? His name was Arthur Orton, a butcher's son from Wapping, London. He had gone to sea as a young man, spent time in South America, and eventually ended up in Australia. Just like the real Roger Tichborne, Orton had likely learned about the missing heir from the newspaper ads, and, seeing an opportunity, decided to try his luck. He was an audacious, charismatic character, and he played his part with surprising conviction. The Tichborne family, apart from Lady Tichborne, was not convinced. They saw a fraud, a crude impostor trying to steal their fortune and name. When Lady Tichborne died in 1868, the family cut off the claimant's allowance, forcing him to take them to court to prove his identity and claim his inheritance. This set the stage for one of the longest and most sensational trials in English legal history. The first trial began in 1871. The claimant had to prove he was Roger Tichborne. He had some compelling evidence. He knew some obscure family details, things it seemed only the real Roger would know. One of the Tichborne family's former servants, a black man named Andrew Bogle, had served Roger as a boy and swore that this man was him. The claimant's legal team was brilliant, and public opinion was massively on his side. He was seen as a working-class hero, a common man fighting against the snooty aristocracy. People bought Tichborne bonds to fund his legal costs, and his supporters held huge rallies. The trial was a spectacle. The claimant was on the witness stand for 22 days. He was cross-examined relentlessly. He couldn't identify his own mother in a photograph. He didn't remember the name of his family's estate. And his lack of French was a huge red flag. Yet, he was charming and unshakable. He had an answer for everything, often claiming memory loss from the trauma he'd endured. The prosecution, however, started building a mountain of evidence against him. They brought witnesses from Australia who knew him as Arthur Orton. They revealed that Roger Tichborne had distinctive tattoos, which the claimant did not have. The final nail in the coffin came from Lord Bellew, a friend of the real Roger. He testified that Roger had once shown him some private tattoos, which he described in court. When the claimant refused to be examined for these tattoos, his case began to crumble. After 102 days, the jury declared they had heard enough. The claimant lost his civil case. But the story doesn't end there. The judge was so convinced he was an imposter that he had the claimant arrested for perjury on the spot. This led to a second trial, this time a criminal one, which started in 1873. This trial was even longer, lasting 188 days. The prosecution brought over 200 witnesses from all over the world, from Chile, Australia, and all across England to prove that the claimant was, in fact, Arthur Orton. They detailed Orton's life, from his childhood in London to his time as a butcher in Australia. They presented handwriting experts, who showed his writing matched Orton's, not Roger Tichborne's. Defense fought back hard, arguing it was a massive conspiracy by the establishment to deny a man his birthright. The public remained fascinated. The case was front-page news every single day. Was he Roger, the lost heir returned? Or was he Orton, the greatest conman of the century? Finally, the jury reached a verdict. They found him guilty of perjury. They concluded that he was not Roger Tichborne, but Arthur Orton. The judge sentenced him to 14 years in prison with hard labor. The great Tichborne drama was over. Or so it seemed. Even after his conviction, many of his supporters, known as Tichborneites, refused to believe he was a fraud. They saw him as a martyr, a victim of the class system. The case had become more than just about one man's identity. It was a battle of class, of the common people against the powerful elite. After Arthur Orton was released from prison, his life was a sad affair, too. He tried to make a living by touring and telling his story. Sometimes confessing he was Orton, other times recanting and claiming to be Tichborne again. He died in poverty in 1898. In a final, bizarre twist, the Tichborne family, perhaps out of a strange sense of pity or irony, allowed the name Sir Roger Charles Doughty Tichborne to be placed on his coffin plate. So, in death, the butcher from Wapping finally got the name he had fought so hard for in life. Tichborne Claimant case remains a powerful story about identity, belief, and the incredible power of a good narrative. How could one man fool so many? Was Lady Tichborne a willing participant, so blinded by grief that she would accept any man as her son? Or was Orton just that convincing? It's a testament to how much we want to believe in incredible stories, in lost loved ones returning, and in underdogs taking on the powerful. Or, what do you think? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into history's strangest mysteries, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories you won't believe are true. See you next time.